Well, joining me now is Kevin Magee, an adjunct fellow at the Australia-China Relations Institute at the University of Technology in Sydney. Great to have you on the program, Kevin. So can you explain to us this election? It's a three-way contest. Usually in Australia, it would be a two-way contest, obviously, with minor parties and the like. What sort of dynamic does that bring to the election in Taiwan?
Yeah, well, the electoral system in Taiwan is first past the post, so it's not preferential like in Australia. So whoever of the three major candidates wins gets enough vote. They don't need to have received 50% of the vote to be elected. The three candidates are Lai Ching-te, who's the current vice president. He's from the Democratic Progress Party, which is a party which is very much in support of Taiwan nationalism and Taiwan's separatism from the mainland. Kuomintang representative Ho Yui is from the Kuomintang, which is the party which for many years dominated Taiwan from 1949 onwards till around the year 2000. The third candidate is Ko Wen-je, who is the former mayor of Taipei. He's an independent candidate who set up his own party called the Taiwan People's Party. So the situation is that the polling, public polling, which was ceased on the 3rd of January under the law here, has indicated that none of the three candidates are likely to get 50% of the vote. And in fact, talking to politicians here from KMT and the DPP, they acknowledge that it's very close, that Lai Ching-te probably is ahead, but only by 1 to 3% of the vote from Ho Yui, with Ke, the independent or the TPP candidate, in third position. So it's difficult to know because around about 10% of the vote was seen as being undecided only a couple of days out by internal polling. So it's really anybody's vote, but if anybody's chance to win. However, one would say that the most likely candidate who has his nose ahead is Vice President Lai Ching-te from the Democratic Progress Party.
And tell me, if the one candidate doesn't get 50% of the vote, what happens?
Well, it's a first past the post system, like, for example, in the parliamentary elections in the United Kingdom. So in the past, for example, in the 2000 election, when there were three candidates, the DPP candidate, Chen Shui-bian, he won the presidency with only 39.3% of the vote. So this time, well, we'll see a situation where almost certainly the winner will have less than a plurality, possibly around 40% of the vote is really what will happen. We'll see the president who will be elected.
What's the dynamic at the moment amid this election between Taiwan and Beijing, and also other partners in the region as well?
Well, I mean, Beijing has been very clear for that. It does not favour the DPP, and as you've seen since 2016, when President Tsai Ing-wen, the DPP president, has been in vain, there's been a lot of tension across the straits, and also there was a breakdown of the relationship of dialogue or cooperation between the two sides of the Taiwan Strait. In the presidency of Ma Ying-jeou between 2008 and 2016, who was KMT, there was a much more relaxed relationship. At that time, for example, the Ma government concluded 23 agreements with China. Well, there've been no agreement since 2016, and it really rotates. It's based on the concept of what's called the 92 Consensus, which is an agreement that was reached in 1992 that Taiwan and China both acknowledge that there's one China, but they both have different interpretations of what it means. Now, that is accepted in principle by the KMT and Mr. Ke. However, the DPP doesn't accept that. And because for that reason, the Chinese mainland have not been willing to talk to or have any sort of dealings with the DPP since 2016 because of that. And that will likely continue if Lai is victorious in the election today. And of course, there's also, you've seen
And
quite a bit of. Sorry, please go ahead.
Oh, my apologies to interrupt you, Kevin. Kevin, I just wanted to ask you, with your experience, particularly as a former diplomat in DFAT, how will Australia be viewing this election at the moment? And our Foreign Minister, Penny Wong, and your former colleagues at DFAT, how will they be viewing this?
Yeah, well, no, they will certainly be watching it very closely, as we've done with all of these elections. Australia, since the Whitlam government, when we recognised the PRC, at that time we acknowledged that Taiwan was regarded by the PRC as part of its territory, but it's not an acceptance of the Chinese position. We don't have diplomatic relations with Taiwan, haven't since 1972, but we do have representative office there, and I was head of that for some years in the past. Australia's position is very clear, and has been through both Labor and Liberal governments, that we do not accept or support the use of force for the reunification of Taiwan and the mainland, and we are comfortable with the status quo. If in the future both sides want to negotiate some sort of agreement, that's fine. Has been strongly supported by Australia and fine for quite some years. But certainly we don't support the use of force by China, the threat of force to reunify Taiwan and China.
Kevin Magee, I really appreciate your insights and analysis, and from Taipei, of course, as well. It's going to be a busy period for you and all the observers, no doubt. So thanks so much for making time and joining us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you, Simon.